Hi, everyone. My name is Selena, and today what we're going to be covering is cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems. So basically, what's inside a living organism. So what is your body made out of? Well, we're actually made out of over 37 trillion tiny cells. These cells are so tiny that you would need a microscope to see it. You wouldn't be able to see it with your naked eye. And all of these cells, they work together to make our body function and help us survive. So this is what we're going to be covering in our lesson today. We're going to be going from small scale to a much larger scale. So we're going to start off small with cells. Then we're going to move into talking about tissues, organs, and finally organ systems, which are the biggest. So here's another diagram drawn out. So first, we're going to start talking about cells. So here I have 4 pictures of different cells under the microscope. So this one on the bottom left here, that's actually a plant cell. And you can see how it's got a rectangular shape, and it's mostly due to the strong cell wall that it has. And if you look over here on the right side, we have these purple circular ones, and it's got these dark purple splotches on the inside. This is actually the nucleus of the cell, and you'll learn more about that in later science lessons. So each of these individual circles, that's one cell. All right, so now let's look at 2 different types of cells. We have the animal cell and the plant cell. So with the animal cell here, you can see a lot of similarities with the plant cell. Like we have organelles that they share, which are these little tiny things inside that serve its own function. But there are also some differences, like we can see different shapes. So the animal cell is more circular, while the plant cell has a more defined shape to it. We'll be covering more details about what's exactly in an animal cell and a plant cell and their similarities and differences in a later lesson. So what are the purpose of cells? They've got 3 main purposes. So the first one is that it's a building block of life. The second is that they provide structure for the body. They kind of make up what we are and what we look like. And finally, it's got a function, which is to help our body perform different things we need to do for survival, such as breathing or even eating and digesting. All right, next, let's look at tissues. So tissues are basically groups of cells that work together. So here we have 2 different types of tissues. The one on the left here, this is a muscle tissue. So if you think about muscles, if we took a little sample of that, that's what we would see under the microscope. On the right side here, we have what's called a nervous tissue. So in total, the body has 4 different types of tissue. There's connective tissue, epithelial tissue, muscle tissue, and nervous tissue. So I won't go into too much detail about these 4 different types of tissues, but you can learn more about it in later lessons. All right, next let's move on to talking about organs. And so organs are basically tissues that work together to serve a function. So think about your body. Can you think or name any organs off the top of your head? Here, I have some listed for you. So there's these cute cartoon diagrams, but we've got a heart here, we've got lungs, a liver, the brain, the stomach, the thyroid. This one actually helps with our metabolism, the intestine, the bladder, the pancreas, the spleen, even our tooth is an organ, and our kidneys. So here I have some more pictures. This one's of a lung, a brain, and a heart. So what each organ does is that it supports a specific function. So for example, if we look at the heart, the purpose of our heart is to pump blood throughout the body. Then think about our lungs. Our lungs are what help us breathe. When we breathe in air, our lungs expand and contract. And then our kidney is what removes toxins from the body. And our brain is what processes thought and helps connect to our nervous system. So we feel pain if we touch something super hot, and we can also guide our decision making and behavior based off of our brain. Finally, let's look at organ systems. So this is when different organs are going to work together. So here's 2 examples of an organ system. The first one on the left here is what we call the respiratory system. And this is all about breathing. So it's got our lungs involved, our diaphragm, our esophagus here, and even our nose and mouth where the air comes in and out. Then over here, we have the cardiovascular system. And so this is with your heart, arteries, various veins around the body, and it's all working together. All working together to help pump blood to different areas in your body, such as your fingers or your toes, or even your head and your brain. So organs work together to create a functioning system. What exactly does this mean? Well, let's look at some examples. So first, with the cardiovascular system, which I just talked about, that involves the heart, the blood, and blood vessels. And what it does is it transports oxygen and nutrients throughout the body. Next, we have the respiratory system. So this involves the mouth, the nose, and the lungs. And this is what allows us to breathe because we can deliver air for gas exchange. And what we let out is carbon dioxide. And finally, we have our nervous system. So this involves your brain, your spinal cord, your eyes, and your skin. So this is what allows us to feel different senses and pain. That's why if you touch something that's really hot, you'll feel the heat from it and it'll hurt a little bit. So that's what makes up these organisms just like us. I hope you learned a bit today, and thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.